No.
No, it's not. No, it is. Wonderful. It is good to be here. And I mean that for a lot of reasons. Public speaking is a very interesting thing, as is feedback. All right, there we go. One of the things that is interesting about it is that it is like fraught with peril. The anxiety that comes because you stand in front of 500 people is a big deal, right? Like, Seth wasn't kidding about that. And the worst part is that it's not exactly great for the audience either. Let me tell you more about that. You will probably, at best, remember 10 to 30% of what you cared most about tonight. Like, we could test you at the end of the week. It is not an effective way to really learn much of anything. But we keep doing it. We keep doing it as humans, and there is actually a very good reason for that. And that is because there is something essential about gathering a room full of people and feeling and presenting ideas live and in person. There is power in that. There are intellectual, spiritual, and emotional things that you can only learn when there are sound waves moving through space between our two physical bodies. It's called a kinesthetic connection. It's real. It's one of the only ways that we truly embody and can validate something that is true. And that's why we keep doing it. And that is why it is good to be here. Gathering people sometimes fills you, and sometimes it doesn't. And tonight I want to talk to you about gatherings that fill us. Now, I believe in the power of speaking so much that I became a teacher of speech and writing. I believe that everyone is creative, talented, and has something important to say and should use their voice, and so I went into teaching that. And since we're going to talk about teaching a little bit, I want to nerd out for a minute and tell you about one of my favorite teacher crushes. Amazing. There is a man by the name of Rafe Esquin who teaches in Los Angeles County. You might have heard of him. He was National Teacher of the Year once. He's a 5th grade teacher. He teaches at Hobart Elementary, which is a large elementary school in one of the poorest counties in Los Angeles. There are 2,500 students between K and 6 who are at this elementary school. Yeah, it's huge. So Rafe teaches in his 5th grade classroom 35 of those students, all of which speak English as a second language. None of those kids speak English at home. And what's amazing about Rafe is he puts those kids, because he believes in them, through a rigorous curriculum of English, geography, mathematics. And if you step into that classroom, there's actually a documentary on it that I would love for all of you to watch. You will see those 5th graders who no one speaks English with at home, reading of Mice and Men, Huckleberry Finn, For Whom the Bell Tolls, and then the pinnacle at the end of the year is that they perform the entirety of Hamlet. This has caught attention across the nation. People like Ian McKellen just show up in his classroom. Oh, look, kids, it's Michael York, right? Like, Shakespearean actors come to this class to tutor and mentor these kids because of the miracles that are happening there. And those kids, they stay from 6:30 in the morning till 5 p.m. every night because Rafe there is creating something magical. Decades after they come out of that 5th grade class, those children are still friends, and they're at places like Harvard and Yale. That is magical and really compelling, isn't it? How many of you, and I will take hands here, would like to be a part of an educational experience like that? The Dead Poets Society, the To Serve with Love, the Freedom Riders, the Scan and Deliver. We have romanticized that in America, but there is still something compelling about that. And I have loved that teaching stuff since I was a little kid, and I wanted to understand why it works and how you do that. And I wanted it for myself, and I wanted it for my students. And I went to graduate school to find out how to do it. I had an experience once where I was 19, and I was in a classroom, and on the last day of school, no one wanted to leave. We just kind of hung there. Like it was a choir and the last note had been sung, but no one really wants to applaud yet because then it would be over. I wanted that, and I went to learn how to do it, and I didn't find anything like that, actually. There is a dearth in the educational world of material that says how you create that magic. There's a whole lot about learning objectives. There's a little bit about individual teachers who can do that, but it's really not something that's scalable. And there's very little about the union that can occur in classrooms. I wanted it bad, and I actually got lucky. I found myself in a place where I could try to make that happen. I ended up teaching in the communication and English departments at BYU-Idaho in 2008 to about 2012. And I said, I'm going to take a stab at this stuff. I knew some things about creating those magical, compelling classrooms. I knew that, first of all, you need a mentor who is highly enthusiastic about the material, that loves learning about it and will learn with their students. You learn best in the presence of a learner. And I could bring that. By the way, enthusiasm, if you take the word away, take it apart, means God in us. Don't you feel most alive when you're enthusiastic? Surveys still show that the #1 characteristic that students desire in their college professors is enthusiasm. Is someone who cares and burns because it lights us something that's real up in you because it burned in them, right? I could bring that. Second thing, rigorous curriculum. I knew that that was important. I could bring that. But the third thing I wasn't sure about, I had a hunch. And hunch is this. The learning environment is everything. And I read a lot in school about affirmative environments, environments that were non-threatening, bonding with your students, and then they'd invest in you, and it would be back and forth, we invest in each other. But it was like it was taboo to talk about deep friendship. There was a boundary there that said, school is cordial space, and we don't need to push friendship. But I wanted to take a stab at it because my belief was that they would do the hard things that I needed them to do if they were so unified that it was a thing of pride and identity and joy to them. My hypothesis was, in fact, that the learning would bring them into deeper friendships than they could enter into without it. So tonight I want to tell you a story of that class with an uncommon commitment to each other and what it taught me about friendship and what it taught me about the possibilities for education. And the way I want to do it is with some evidence. So I brought it. I was blogging at the time about little things that happened during the semester, and I want to share with you a couple of snapshots that got captured in the blog. September 29th. I can't believe what's happening in my writing class this afternoon. By the way, this was in Romney 271. The energy is palpable in there. Yeah, it's Friday afternoon, I know. My students have caught fire, and when they get together, they just burn brighter. They decided on their own to be honest writers and to write something true, to abandon the notion of impressing people, and to push hard enough to compose a piece rather than just write a paper. And I read them all last night. I chilled, and I laughed out loud, and my heart hurt, and I cheered for them because they succeeded in cleverness, in vivid description, and in something more important than that, in intellectual courage. And I couldn't help but read passages from my freshmen to people passing by my office. Today they returned after a night of revising classmates' work. And I have to pause you here. One of the things I asked them to do is, I didn't just send them home with revise your classmates' paper. I sent them home with all the papers. 25. That's a lot of reading when you're a freshman. And there's a reason for that. Because you need to understand that we're a community, and our voices together create something big. It's something to know you, but if grading your paper is just my assignment, then I don't know the community that I am in. So everyone read everyone's work, and when they came back, there had been no search and destroy missions. The essays were returned with colorful cursive, and when I asked about the experience, they said, let me read Morgan's, can I read from John's? You've got to hear this is incredible. They created a space where vulnerability and that intellectual honesty was validated deeply. I think we succeeded with several unsuspecting students. Here's another one. Now this one's kind of awkward. You got to know about the BYU-Idaho Hart Gymnasium. So there was this time when they were converting the gyms, and they stuck us all in a really small space. Let me get out the feedback. And there were mirrors, like a bank of mirrors, like it was supposed to be a dance hall, right? And all the treadmills are lined up against the mirrors, which means that you've got to make eye contact with yourself while you run. And it's kind of weird, but it's not as weird, Seth, as like making eye contact with a stranger next to you in the mirror. You know? And so I had actually told my students a story about how I was running one night, and this guy hopped on the treadmill next to me, and he was like loping along, like happy, and I was like, you make me want to run happy. the next day I'm in the gym and two of my students show up next to me. Fun to run with your students, right? And we're all thinking, I can just tell, don't let the teacher, don't let the students down, must run happy. And so I look at them and I smile, hey, we're gonna run happy. And what's funny is they took it to a whole new level, right? So they start playing rocks, paper, scissors while they run. And the winner gets to up the other person's treadmill. Spin you off the back. I loved watching that playfulness. So here's what I wrote. They took it to a whole new level, playing rocks, paper, scissors, and this level of play, I almost tripped off my treadmill watching. Now what that grew out of was an assignment that we had called sightings. Sightings is this. It's not stalking, it's sightings. We are a community. If we are going to say that we're going to use authentic voices together to write or to speak, then when I see you on campus, in between classes, or at the dorms at night when we're in our PJs, I don't get to turn my eyes and look the other way and act like you're a person whose voice I heard one day and didn't acknowledge the next. I come to you and I say, hey, how are you doing? What's going on in your life? I call you by name and then we take a picture for evidence. Because evidence matters, and you have to have 40 pieces of evidence by the end of the semester. Now you look through your photo albums in life, and they create a story. I wanted them to see the story, the evidence, and it made all the difference. These kids, at the end of 4 years, would come back to me and say, do you know who I say hi to on campus? Do you know who cares about me? It's all the people that they formed the habit of saying hello to in class and out. Because of sightings. I'm doing a good job of tricking them into being friends. All right, next episode. I am thrilled to be a teacher. This is on 10-6. Thrilled by my students and thrilled by the authentic fire for learning we felt today. I have one of the most capable groups of public speaking students I have ever seen. I decided to pilot a new and rather demanding presentation project, a rhetorical analysis of a significant American speech with significant visual aids that invite splicing video, audio, and then choreographing a 3-person team to deliver it. And I want it seamless. Now, these are freshmen, and I knew that that was a 400 level or a 500 level project. I knew that it would require them to meet with me to even understand some of the rhetorical frames that exist. My expectations were high, very high, and they exceeded them. They captured rhetorical moments. They educated us about speakers and complex rhetorical ideas. I mean, when's the last time you heard a freshman elaborate on the frontier myths, place, and societal discourse? Right? They did it. And then this happened. At the end of class, I had to compliment them on their incredible work, but I couldn't stop them from complimenting each other. They were so proud of each other, and they pushed through something so hard, and it brought them together a little bit like a crisis. You know, people will say an earthquake or a hardship will do that to a group. I have some personal experience with that. And it absolutely did. Last snapshot. Section 2 met for the last time on Thursday. We sang our carol, we prayed, we dove into the remaining impromptu speeches, and when they came to an end, no one moved. And I remembered being 19 and what that felt like. They wanted to linger. That didn't seem out of the ordinary because over those 12 weeks, these 22 students became family. On campus, they greet each other with yells and with monster hugs. They have inside jokes. Most of them rented in Diet Coke. There was one girl who calculated the price of everything in Diet Coke units, and so everybody else did too. The greetings turned into more. After mid-semester, this class met for lunch twice a week. And on the lawn before class. And as speeches ended, I told them how pleased I was. I told them they had exceptional speaking ability. 20 out of the 22 had never even touched a note card. But I said the most important thing that you have done here is applied yourself. I have seen consistent, significant improvement in every single one of you. And more important than that, you have done it together. Dave, when anybody needed PowerPoint, you sacrificed your time to be there. And John, you were the statistical master of the universe. And Kristen, you were teaching meditation with everyone who was having significant anxiety. Everyone stepped in to do it together. And then I did something brave that I'll tell you about in a minute. When you listen to stories like that, story does something with you. If you felt anything at all while I was sharing those snapshots about those kids with commitment to each other, the story wanted something from you. It was telling you that there is something true and real, probably worth acting on or worth remembering. When I listened to that story and lived that story, it taught me a few things. One of them is this, that friendship, not just affirmation, not just safety, not just cordiality, is the optimal place to learn. The second thing that it taught me is that those principles of creating unity and deep friendship don't just belong to classrooms. They belong to all of you and anyone who wants to create a purposeful, belonging place in their life where there is deep connection, energy, and cause. Deep friendship is the place for learning because it allows risk-taking like none other. Deep friendship is the place for learning because it allows creativity that is only loosed in your brain when you're experiencing joy and pleasure. Deep friendship is the place for learning because actually we proved in research about groups of kids, they learn more from their social networks than they ever do from the group you assign them to write a paper with. What if their social networks are the groups that you assign them to write a paper with, right? Like, it's absolutely unique and it shouldn't be taboo and there shouldn't be a boundary in the research about it, and you certainly shouldn't feel a boundary if you're an educator. Now, the principles. The principles that anyone can take to create a belonging place, and I hope you do because we all wanted to be a part of that magical experience. One, I see you all the time. If I've heard your voice and I know who you are, it doesn't matter if we're at church and it doesn't matter if we're at ANASAZI and it doesn't matter if that was just a one-off, I see you the rest of the time too, and I acknowledge everything about that. Second thing, we play. We have fun. I make an effort to make your life more fun. We start to have inside jokes and things that understand us. And when you have an inside joke, it means they're inside. It means the third principle, I say we. And I take that into the future. We're Sister Clemens class. That's who we are, right? I say, we're friend family. This is that we do. We're this. And you say we to say, yes, you belong here. We do have an identity as a group. We are a tribe. There is something important there. And there's a future for us because of that. Another thing that we do that's important to connect is that we must have cause and do hard, worthwhile things. Friendships that are flaccid because they have no cause really just give us company to pass the time. But friendships that are infused with the energy of learning and challenge grow deep. And challenges and causes that are infused with the blessing of friendship are accomplished in a miraculous and angelic kind of way. I'm going to tell you about the brave thing I did. It's the end of class. I told them how impressed I am. And I said, I'm going to do something now that I have never been able to do before, but I can do it with all of my conscience. And I looked at them and I said, A's for everyone. Some of you might not have made it in some technical way, but someone in here covered for you and bought that. And you have definitely paid them and covered for them too. I know it, I saw it. Your sacrifice for each other to reach a cause was incredible. And so the best gift that I've ever had in my life, sometimes I think, are those magical educational experiences that feel like a miracle, that feel like a movie. And I would say to you, if you're an educator, please use deep friendship to create something like that because we all want to be a part of it. But if you're just someone like me and the rest of us who says it matters, infuse your friendships with learning and a cause. Infuse your causes with friendship. Because truly, and one of my best friends always says this, the quality of our existence is simply in the relationship we have with others. Thank you.